The wind howled across the broken streets of the colony's trash zone. Smoke drifted from burning piles of scrap, and the air stank of chemicals and rotting food. Most people avoided this place after sunset, but Elias was not like most people. He lived alone, scavenging metal parts and broken tech just to survive. As he walked deeper into the junkyard, his boots crunched over glass and rusted wires. He carried a small flashlight in one hand and a sack of tools in the other. The cold was creeping in fast. He just wanted to find something useful and head back home. Then he heard it, a sound. Soft, weak, not the hiss of leaking gas or the creak of scrap metal. It was a whimper, a small cry, like a wounded animal. Elias froze. His flashlight swept across broken crates and piles of black plastic bags. He heard the sound again, closer this time. Behind an old rusted bin, something moved. He stepped forward slowly, and then he saw her, a girl, small, shaking. Her skin was pale blue and glowing faintly in the dark. Her hair was tangled in silver white, filled with dirt. She was wrapped in a torn blanket, barely covering her thin body. Her eyes were large, bright, and terrified. She was not human. Elias looked around. No patrol drones, no other people. Hey, he said gently, kneeling down. It's okay, I won't hurt you. The girl didn't answer. She just stared at him. Her lips were cracked, her face had bruises, her arm was bleeding. She was no older than 15, maybe younger. He reached into his coat and pulled out a flask. Water, he said, offering it. She stared at the bottle, then at him, and then slowly reached out with trembling hands. She drank fast, almost choking. Then she coughed and started crying again, but quietly, like she was scared to make noise. He looked at her injuries. Someone had hurt her badly. He didn't know who she was or where she came from, but he knew one thing: if the colony guards found her, they would take her away, or worse. Alien strays were not welcome here. He had two choices: leave her or take her. Elias took off his coat and wrapped it around her small body. Come on, he whispered. You're coming with me. Elias lived in an old metal shack near the border. Wall, it wasn't much. Just a bed, a stove, and stacks of junk he collected. He carried the girl inside, placed her gently on the bed, and turned on a small heater. She was freezing. He found a clean cloth and began cleaning her wounds. She didn't speak. She just watched him, her glowing eyes never blinking. She didn't flinch. She didn't fight. It was like she was waiting for pain, but it never came. Can you understand me? He asked softly. She gave the smallest nod. What's your name? No answer. Okay, no name. How about Leary? That sound good. She blinked, then slowly nodded again. All right, Leary, he said. I'm Elias. You're safe here. She looked around the room, confused. She touched the bed like she had never seen one before. She stared at the heater, then moved closer to it. Her hands hovered above the warm air. For the first time, she relaxed a little. Elias made soup from dried vegetables and powder. It wasn't much, but it was hot. He gave her a small bowl. She sniffed it and took a slow sip. Then her body shook again. She started crying, this time harder. Too hot? Elias asked. She shook her head. It wasn't pain, it was relief. She hadn't eaten real food in days, maybe weeks. Her tears fell silently as she ate. That night, Elias gave her a blanket and laid down on the floor beside the bed. He kept the heater on low and watched the door, just in case. He didn't know what kind of trouble would come for her, but he knew trouble was coming. Before he closed his eyes, he heard her whisper something. Thank you. The words were quiet, almost like wind. He didn't answer. He just smiled, knowing tomorrow would bring questions, danger, and maybe regret. But not tonight. Tonight she was safe, and that was enough. The morning sun rose behind the colony wall, casting long shadows across Elias's shack. Inside, Leary sat on the bed, still wrapped in his coat. Her skin was no longer blue with cold, but her eyes stayed fixed on the door like she expected it to open any second and take her away. Elias handed her a metal spoon and a bowl of warm porridge. She looked at it, then at him, then whispered her first word in human tongue: eat. Elias blinked. Yeah, eat. You're learning fast, she smiled. A small smile, weak but real. He sat across from her and stirred his own food. You're not just smart, he said. You're a fast learner. She copied him, scooping the porridge into her mouth. Then, between bites, she said something else, 2 words this time. Elias, danger. His spoon stopped halfway to his mouth. He looked up. What? She repeated. Slower. Elias, danger soon. The room felt colder. Leary, how do you know that? What danger? She shook her head. Her small hands began to tremble. Her face became tight with worry. Coming, she said softly. They know me. Elias didn't sleep much that night. He stood outside the shack watching the sky. The colony patrols were quiet today. No sirens, no scanner drones. But Leary's warning stayed in his head like a needle dot. Who was she really? Why was she left in the trash zone? And how did she speak his name when he never told her before he called her Leary? He went back inside and found her standing in front of the mirror. Her reflection showed her glowing skin, soft and pale, with light marks around her shoulders. Not tattoos, more like birth symbols, faint and almost invisible unless the light hit just right. Do you remember anything? He asked gently. She stared at the mirror. Before trash. Darkness, cold water, pain. What else? She turned to him. Voices not human. They said, "Disconnect unit then." I woke unit. Elias frowned. "You mean ... like a machine?" Leary touched her chest, then her head. "I am real." But Maid, that word shook him. Maid. Later that week, Elias took Leary with him to the edge of the junkyard. He didn't want to leave her alone, and he needed to find parts to trade for food. She wore a heavy cloak and kept her head down. "Stay close," he told her. "Don't talk unless I say." She nodded and followed. The scrap fields were huge, filled with old ships, broken bots, and destroyed colony equipment. Elias dug through the piles, searching for copper wires and energy cells. Leary stayed beside him, quiet and still, until a loud buzzing sound filled the air. A patrol drone had hovered above them, scanning. Elias froze. He looked at Leary. Her eyes were wide with fear. "Stay calm," he whispered, but the drone stopped in midair. Its red light blinked rapidly, as if confused. Then something strange happened. Leary's body began to glow slightly. Not bright, but just enough for Elias to see her outline in the shadow of the wrecked ship. The drone turned. Its scanner passed over her, then over Elias. And then it flew away. Just like that. Elias waited for an alarm, for soldiers, but nothing came. How, he asked. Why didn't it report us? Leary looked down. I blocked it. What do you mean? I told it to go. Elias stared at her. With what? How? Leary touched her temple. I have code here, back in the shack. Elias poured hot tea and tried to think. Leary was not just an alien girl. She was something else, part living, part machine, maybe even part weapon. But when she sat beside him, wrapped in the same coat he gave her on day one, she looked like a scared child again. Do you want to stay with me? He asked. She looked up. You are kind. You give me food, warmth. You don't look at me like trash. You're not trash. She reached out slowly, touching his hand. I want to stay, but I want to learn more. About what? Words, feelings, your world. You. Elias smiled, though his heart was heavy. He didn't know what would happen tomorrow, but tonight. The girl who came from the garbage wanted to live, and he would help her no matter what she really was. The sky above the colony was thick with dust that day. The metal fields shimmered under the afternoon sun, and the heat made Elias's head heavy. He had been walking for hours, searching for old power cores and rare parts. Leary was back at the shack, practicing human words from an old learning tablet. Elias was tired. His sack was full, and he didn't see the man waiting behind the scrap pile. The ambush happened fast. 3 men, dirty armed, faces covered with cloth. One had a knife. Another held a shock stick. The third just smiled. You've got tech, one of them growled. We'll take it. Elias raised his hand slowly. I don't want trouble. Take what you want. The man with the knife stepped closer. We will. But first, your bag, then your boots, then maybe your blood. Elias tried to run, but the shock stick hit his side. Pain exploded through his ribs, and he fell hard onto the dirt. The knife was above him now, ready to strike. Elias closed his eyes. And then the air cracked. A blast of blue light hit the attacker like a thunderbolt, throwing him into the junk pile. Elias opened his eyes and gasped. I stood just a few feet away. Her eyes glowed brighter. Hands were raised. Her body hummed with strange energy. The men froze. What the hell is that? One of them shouted. I moved forward.com/cold. I said go. She said. Her voice was not loud, but it was not human. It echoed with power. The attackers didn't argue. They ran fast. Elias sat on the ground, breathing hard, still holding his ribs. Leary knelt beside him. You're hurt, she said. You were supposed to stay home, Elias whispered. I heard you scream. He looked at her, blinking. How did you get here so fast? I ran. You didn't just run. You lit up like a star. Leary looked down. I'm sorry, don't be, he said. You saved my life. She helped him stand. Her hands were warm, steady, but her face looked sad. What's wrong? Elias asked. She hesitated. When I used that power, I felt something. What fear from you? Elias didn't answer. It was true. He had seen her glow before, but this time was different. She wasn't just glowing. She was dangerous. Back at the shack, Elias lay on the bed while Leary placed a cold pack on his ribs. The pain was sharp, but bearable. I didn't want you to see that side of me, she said. You protected me, he replied. I should be grateful, but you're not. I'm confused. She sat beside him, staring at the heater. I don't know what I am, Elias. I'm not just a girl. I'm not just alien. I'm something else. Maybe built, maybe born, maybe both. You feel real to me. She smiled gently. So do you. Then she said something that made Elias's chest tighten. I was not made to love, but I think I do. He sat up slowly. Leary, you don't even know what that means. I don't, she agreed. But when you were on the ground, and I saw the knife, I felt something. Hot, like fire in my chest. I had to protect you. Elias looked away. He didn't know how to answer. She was growing, learning, changing too fast. That night, a rainstorm hit the colony. Thunder rolled across the hills, and lightning flashed over the junkyard. Elias stood by the window thinking, could he really keep her safe? Could he hide her forever? Would the government come looking? Behind him, Leary sat on the floor, hugging her knees. She wasn't sleeping. She was waiting. He turned to her. Leary, If someone came for you, someone powerful, what would you do? She stood slowly and walked to him. I would run, and if they caught me, instead of you. She looked up, her eyes glowing softly. Then I would burn them. Elias didn't speak, he just stared at her, this strange girl from the trash, who now stood like a warrior beside him, a girl who saved him not once but now over and over. He didn't know what she was turning into, but part of him was starting to hope she never left. The morning after the storm. The junkyard was wet and quiet. Water dripped from metal beams and puddles formed between broken machines. Elias and Leary moved carefully, their boots splashing through the mud as they searched for supplies. Elias didn't talk much, his ribs still ached, but something deeper hurt confusion. He had seen Leary light up like a weapon. He had seen her fight, like a soldier, and he couldn't forget what she said. I was not made to love, but I think I do. That voice, that glow, that power. She was becoming something more. But what? Leary walked ahead looking under a pile of broken robots. Then her hand stopped. She found something small and strange under the dirt. It was a cube, smooth, black cold. Its surface shimmered like oil under light. She held it up. Elias, this calls to me. Elias stepped closer. Looks like old alien tech. Careful. But the cube reacted. It glowed the moment Leary touched it with both hands. A soft humming filled the air, and strange symbols appeared across the surface like a language neither of them had seen before. Leary's eyes widened. I understand it. What does it say? She read slowly, her voice deeper than before. Designation, LIR-9. Hybrid trial. Status, active. Location, unknown. Illicit. Heart pounded. LIR-9. Is that your real name? Leary looked at him. I think I was. A number. Back at the shack, the cube floated in the air between them. It projected shapes, holograms, images of strange machines, glowing tanks filled with floating bodies, and a room filled with alien scientists. Leary saw herself, not as she was now, but younger, smaller, in a tank, sleeping. She gasped, "That's me." Elias leaned closer. "They made you." The projection changed again. Files, notes, audio logs. One voice spoke clearly. Subject LIR-9 has responded well to emotional triggers. Hybrid bonding successful. Human attachment experiment begins in 5 rotations. Leary backed away from the cube. Her breath quickened. "They were testing me," she whispered. "They sent me to connect." "To who?" She looked up. "To someone like you." Elias shook his head. "That can't be. I found you in the trash, half dead." Leary held her head. "What if they put me there on purpose?" Silence filled the room. Elias stood up, pacing. "This is too big. If this was some kind of secret project, they'll want you back, or they'll want you erased." Leary stood too. "I don't want to go back, but you might not have a choice." She stepped closer to him. "I choose you." Elias looked into her eyes, glowing faintly in the dark. "Leary, what if they come with ships, soldiers? What if they say you belong to them?" She clenched her fists. "Then I will fight." "You're just a girl." "I am not," she said. "Not anymore." That night, they sat by the heater, the cube glowing beside them. Leary stared at it without blinking. "Elias, yes, if I was made to feel, to love. Does that mean my feelings are not real?" He paused. "I don't know." She nodded slowly. "I do." She reached out and took his hand. "I feel warm when you smile. I feel strong when you're near. That can't be fake." Elias looked at her small hand in his dot. Her skin was soft, but he could feel energy pulsing beneath it like something more than blood. "You're not fake," he said at last. "You're real to me." She smiled. Then she said something he wasn't ready for. "I think I was made for war, but my heart wants peace." Later, when she fell asleep, Elias stood outside the shack, watching the sky. He held the cube. Its symbols glowed again. One message repeated in a soft, robotic voice. "Target connection successful. Retrieval process pending." Elias gripped it tighter. Someone out there was coming for her. And they already knew where to look. Elias never trusted the colony for long. Its guards, its scanners, its silence to clean, to cold. After the cube revealed the message retrieval process pending, he knew they had to leave. Leary was no longer just a lost alien teen. She was a marked experiment, and someone wanted her back. He packed supplies into a scavenger cart. Energy bars, water packs, clothes, and a small blaster. Leary didn't ask questions. She just helped. As they stood at the southern gate of the colony wall, Elias glanced back once. His small shack, the junkyard, the narrow alleys they had been his whole life. Now they were nothing but memories. "You ready?" he asked. Leary nodded, her eyes calm. "I've been ready since you found me." They walked through the rusted gate and stepped into the forbidden Wastelands. The world outside the colony was broken and dry. Mountains of old war machines lay half buried in sand. The air was thin. The wind carried dust and the smell of old smoke. Leary moved fast, her eyes scanning every direction. "We are not alone," she whispered. Elias gripped the blaster. "I know." They reached a burned-out supply station by sunset and hid inside. Elias set up a heat lamp and laid down a blanket. But Leary stood near the window, silent, listening. Then it happened. A long beep came from the sky. Soft at first, then louder, like an alarm from above. Leary's skin began to dim, her natural glow disappearing. They turned off my field, she said. They know I'm here. Elias looked up. In the distance, 3 red lights floated across the clouds. Drones, fast ones. Searchers. We have to move. No, Leary said. We hide. If we run, they chase, then what do we do? She turned toward the back of the station and opened a trapdoor Elias hadn't even seen. Down the hidden tunnel led deep into the rock, cold and narrow. At the end they found a wide cave lit by glowing moss and old tech. Someone had been living there once. Old weapons, dusty furniture, even a map. Leary touched the wall and smiled faintly. This is one of ours. A safe place. Ours. My kind, before I was created. They rested for a while. But Elias couldn't. Relax, Leary. What if they catch us? What if they take you back? Then I won't let them. You think you can fight them? I don't know, but I know I won't go with them. I choose you. Remember. He looked at her carefully. Leary, what if you were made to destroy people like me? She moved closer. Then why do I feel pain when you hurt? He didn't know what to say. She sat beside him and whispered, I don't want to be a weapon anymore. I just want to be yours. In the early morning, they climbed out of the tunnel, but the sky was no longer empty. A black ship hovered above the ground like a ghost, silent, smooth, marked with a strange silver symbol, an alien, I.LIR. I stopped walking. They're here. From the ship's side, 2 figures floated down, tall, thin, with metallic skin and glowing eyes. Not soldiers, not humans. Collectors. One of them raised a device, returned the subject. It said in a flat voice, LIR-9 is property of the Sinar program. Elias raised his blaster. She's not property. The second collector ignored him and spoke to Leary. You are incomplete. You must be updated. Come now, or we will take you. Leary stepped in front of Elias. No. You are broken. I am free. A long silence followed. Then the collectors raised their arms. Elias fired first, but the blast bounced off a shield. The collectors struck back. One wave of energy knocked Elias to the ground. The other shot toward Leary, but she didn't fall. She caught it. The air around her cracked. Her body lit up once again, but this time brighter, more focused. She screamed, not in pain, but in defiance. You won't take me. The blast that followed threw both collectors backward. The ground shook. The ship trembled. The smoke filled the air. Elias pulled himself up and grabbed Leary's hand. Run. They ran toward the cliffs. Behind them the ship was still burning, but more would come. Leary didn't look back. She just held on tighter that night. They reached a cave deep in the cliffs. Elias lit a small fire. His hands were shaking. His heart was still racing. Leary sat beside him, her head on his shoulder. You could have gone with them, he whispered. Maybe they would have fixed you. She shook her head. I don't want to be fixed. I want to be free. I want to stay with you. Elias looked at her face. And for the first time he wasn't just afraid for her. He was afraid of losing her, because now she meant more than anything. The cave gave them shelter from the burning skies and the cold wind outside, but it could not stop the fear that had begun to grow between them. Elias watched Leary sleep, curled beside the fire, her soft breathing the only sound in the dark. Her skin glowed faintly again, not from power, but from warmth. Elias had questions. Too many, but no answers. He remembered how she stood against the collectors, how her scream had shaken the ground. She had become something stronger than he ever imagined. She didn't just survive, she fought. And for him, she said she wanted to stay. But why? The next morning they searched the cave and found the remains of a broken shuttle at the far end. Its roof was cracked, and moss grew over the control panels, but it was hidden and safe. Elias worked to repair the inside, while Leary brought him small pieces of scrap she found. They didn't speak much, until Elias finally said what had been heavy in his heart. Why did you say I'm yours? Leary paused. Her eyes glowed softly. Because I feel something for you. I found you in the trash, Leary. I raised you like a daughter. She stood still for a moment, then said, You are not my father, but I cared for you like one. She stepped closer, and I cared for you like someone I choose, not someone assigned. I choose you. Elias didn't move. You're young. You don't understand what love really is. I understand enough to know I don't want to call you father anymore. His heart skipped. Then what do you want to call me? She looked down. Elias, just that. No title, no command. No command, just his name, spoken with quiet meaning that evening. They sat by the cracked shuttle window, watching stars fall across the alien sky. A soft green light danced above the cliffs, and wind howled outside the broken hull. Liri sat close beside Elias, wrapping the old blanket around them both. I wasn't made for this, she said. For sitting, for feeling, for watching stars. I wasn't made for running from alien ships either, Elias answered. She laughed softly, then she turned her face to him. I don't know what's right or wrong, but I know this feels right. He looked into her glowing eyes. You're not a normal girl, I know. I'm not sure what I am to you anymore. She reached out and gently held his hand. You're the first thing that was ever mine. Not assigned, not programmed. Mine. Elias felt the warmth of her touch spread through him. Her skin felt real, alive, not artificial. He couldn't speak that night. As the fire faded, Leary laid her head on his shoulder. I used to dream of nothing, she whispered. Darkness, silence, cold water. And now I dream of your voice, your hands, your scent. Elias closed his eyes. The moment felt fragile, too soft for a world that hunted them. But real. Maybe more real than anything he had ever known. Then, without warning, a low hum echoed from outside. Light flickered in the distance, not from a star, from a drone. They had found them again. Elias stood and pulled Leary behind the old metal plate. The drone passed slowly, scanning. Leary touched his back. Let me use my power again. No, Elias whispered. If you do, they'll track the energy. We can't risk it. But what if they take you? I'll be fine. She grabbed his arm. Double quotes. No, I won't lose you. Her voice cracked. She had never cried before, but now her eyes shimmered. Elias reached out and touched her cheek. We'll stay quiet. We'll survive together. After the drone passed, silence returned. Leary sat beside him, holding his hand. Again, but this time, she didn't let go. I may have been made for war, she said, but now, I want peace. And if peace is with you, then that's all I want. Elias didn't stop her when she rested her head against his chest. And when she whispered, I love you, he didn't say it back. Not yet, but he didn't stop her. And in that silence, that was enough. The desert winds were quiet that night. The sky above the cliffs burned with falling stars, as if the universe itself was weeping or warning. Inside the broken shuttle, Elias checked the last energy cell. It was weak, but enough for one more jump, more signal. If they could reach an old outpost beyond the southern range, maybe they'd find help. Maybe freedom. Lyri stood near the doorway, watching the sky. Her silver-white hair moved with the breeze, and her long cloak fluttered like wings. She had been quiet all day. Since the drone passed, she hadn't spoken much. Just watched him, watched everything. Like she was preparing for something. Elias sat beside her and offered her a small bite of dry fruit. You okay? She shook her head. No, what's wrong? I don't want to run anymore, he sighed. I know, but we have no choice. She turned to him. We always have a choice. You chose to take me from the trash. You chose to heal me, to feed me, to stay. You needed help. I needed love. Elias blinked. Leary, she stepped closer. I remember more now. The cube didn't just show what I was. It unlocked what I felt. I wasn't just an experiment. I was trained to bond, to attach, to love, but only for control. He frowned. But you said what you feel is real. She nodded. It is, because I broke the design. She placed a hand over her chest. They told me to obey, but I chose you. That was not in the code. Lightning flashed in the far distance. A storm was building again. Leary looked out toward the horizon. They're still looking. They won't stop. Elias reached for her hand. Then we keep moving. We find a place far enough to hide. No, she said gently. They will always find me, but they don't know what I've become. What do you mean? I'm not just a runaway anymore. I'm alive. She took a deep breath. Elias, I love you. I'm not saying it because I was made to. I'm saying it because I feel it. Because I want to say it, even if I'm not human. Even if it's wrong in your world. He didn't speak. Her hand trembled in his. I don't want you to see me as a child, she whispered. I don't want you to see me as something broken. I want you to see me as yours, as someone who belongs with you. The fire cracked. Quietly. The storm outside moved closer. Elias looked at her. Really looked. This girl, no, this being had crossed more than distance. She had crossed creation itself. She had chosen him not because of programming, not because of a mission, but because of love. Real love. He stood slowly, walked to the old console, pressed the final button. A faint signal burst into the dark sky. Are you calling someone? She asked. He nodded. There's a group I used to work with. People who help hide refugees if they get the message. We might have a way off this world. Leary stepped beside him. Even if we leave, will you still let me stay close? He turned to her, touched her face. I don't know what happens after this, but I know this much. You are not trash. You are not a tool. And I care about you more than I ever thought possible. She smiled. Then she leaned in. Soft, careful, but sure. Their foreheads touched. No sparks. No glow. Just warmth. Just peace. The signal went quiet in the far sky. A soft green light blinked. A response. Help was coming. Maybe not now, but soon. Leary sat beside Elias and held his hand tightly. I was made in silence, she whispered, but I found my voice with you. He smiled. And I was made for survival, he replied, but I found something to live for with you. They stayed like that until the fire burned out. No fear, no running, just two hearts, one human, one alien, finally safe in the stillness. Together.